Angular um, performance and security. Okay, we'll go into the session will be 3 hours, and first 1.5 hour we're going to divide in two part. One is the performance, it will be 1.5 hours. Second, security, it will be the 1 hours, and last 30 minutes will go for discussion, and any doubts or anything will be there you can go to discuss. Okay, now let's go and discuss about what is a Angular. Then we'll go and discuss about performance and security. I know that all of you know about Angular, what Angular doing and what is the use of Angular, but let's go and start with a little bit introduction about the Angular. Then we'll go and discuss about other things. As all of you know that Angular is a like front-end technology. You can say that a UI technology which is used to develop the single page application. Means if nowadays you know that all the places people are using the single page applications, right? Like only one page. Now you are going to develop the component based application, and component based application you will go and develop the applications, right? Just like a React, just like Vue, we are using the Angular. And all these front-end technologies like React, Vue, Angular, all are using the concept called component-based development. And you know that component is a UI block which is used to develop the UI, and you can reuse that UI in all the places. Yeah. Now, but I know that you all of know maybe developing the Angular software in your company or you are learning the Angular. That is okay. But as a developer, coding is different part. You develop a good component and you write some code, connect to the backend API and getting some data, binding the data. All these things you are doing. But you have to understand that as a developer, if you're going for one by one step ahead, the application performance and security is the most key component for the application. Suppose you develop one application, right? And when you develop one application and you have to think that suppose this application taking so much time to like load the application, okay, so much time to fetch the data, and suppose you are navigating from one page to another page, it's taking too much time. Now as a developer, okay, you will say that okay, my API getting the response is very bad, and all these things will become. But as a developer, from the UI developer perspective, you must have to know that like whatever you are developing, how optimizedly you are writing your code, that is the things. Now in this case, optimization is not about code, guys. Like okay, you can define a variable, you can add to number, or you doing all these things, this is the code. But how in the Angular wise you can go and optimize your code in such a way, optimize your function in such a way that is going to like achieve that is going to enhance your performance of your application. Same to same, we're going to learn a lot of tools today, how you can going to implement the tools to implement the Angular performance. That is the one part. And you know that security, without security there is no existence of any applications, right? For that reason, we have to learn that how we can go and do best practice for Angular security in an application. I know that no one of you are using any security mechanism, just you are using the just simply using the Angular functionality. But you can imagine security is a lot of things available in Angular, how to perform the different tasks using the security. Okay, in this case, guys, what we'll do now, we'll go and discuss about first how go implement the Angular performance, then we'll go and discuss about Angular security. Okay, before going to start all these things, let me create a fresh application for you, a Angular application, and that application I'm going to write all the Angular code. In this like demo, I'm going to use the Angular 13 version. I'm not using Angular 14 because we want to do another workshop for Angular 14 where you can go and learn about features of Angular 14. But whatever we're going to do today is Angular 13. There is no difference, much more difference between Angular 13 and 14. New features is added, but you all have to know that Angular 8, Angular 10, Angular 11, Angular all this 13 has the same functionality. New things added, but if you see the core functionality, all are using the same kind of concept. Now let's go and discuss about like how we can go and what are the tools we are going to use implement like this Angular performance and security. Okay. Before going all this discussion, we'll go and create one fresh app for Angular. Okay. Let me do one thing. Okay. Now in this folder, we are going to create the Angular application. Let me open the same command prompt. Before going that, let me check what is the current Angular version we are using. Let me for that ng, you know that version tag is used to check that what is the current version of our application. Right? We are using 13.3.9, which is the stable version for the Angular. Right? Now here we are going to create our application. To create application, we are going to create the ng, new, and the project name. Now here the project name going to give that suppose performance and security. Okay, performance and security. And in this case, this code I'm going to like push into the Git and going to this course only. I'm like this session only. I'm going to give you the this link of this one. Then you can go and simply access the application. Okay. Let me create the application. And you know that when going to create an application, it will going to ask few more questions like you want to add a routing or not, and which CSS you are going to use. All these things going to ask. Let them create the application. Meanwhile, application creating will go and discuss what are the different tools we are going to use for these things. Okay. For the application performance, okay, we'll go and discuss about the first point, application performance. What we are going to do that. First thing we are going to do that is called the HTTP caching. Let's understand HTTP caching. Now we implement that. Suppose you are calling the same API multiple times. Using how we are going to enhance the performance of the application using the HTTP caching. Second one, we are going to learn about a tool called Google Lighthouse. We are going to implement how Google Lighthouse tool is going to help us to optimize our application performance. Third thing, we are going to learn about the lazy loading. Okay, and I know that lazy loading, all of you know that, but I'm not going to discuss much more on that, but I'm going to give you the idea how the lazy loading is going to implement your application performance. Here maybe lazy loading is old for you, but this Google Lighthouse and HTTP caching is going to be our main topic for today. Okay, same to same. We'll go for security. Second one is security. In the security, we are going to learn about lot of things. First, we are going to learn about what is called sanitize. Okay, how you can go and sanitize your application. Okay, this is the one of the most interesting topic for the application. Okay, and DOM manipulation. DOM. Okay, DOM security. Okay, and third one, we are going to learn about the router security. And I hope that you all are, you maybe know router security, like the different router guard, you can call that, but we'll go and implement all these things. Now our today's target is we are going to implement the performance using these three things and the security using these three things. This is our motto for this today's class. Okay, now let's go and implement the one by one things into our application. How to implement the performance using the HTTP caching, and what is the use of Google Lighthouse tool, and what is the use of the lazy loading. Same to same in security, sanitize, what is the sanitize, and DOM, what is the DOM security, and the router security. We'll go and discuss one by one in depth. Okay. Now our agenda is ready for now. Now let's go and start implement one by one thing. Okay, now you can see that guys, our application got created successfully, and let me navigate to our performance tool, and you know that this is our application. Let me open the application in code. Okay, now you can see that our fresh application got created. Okay, now what we're going to do now, we are going to implement first our performance stuff. like how we're going to implement the HTTP task. Okay. Now, before going that, let me create few components for you, and because everything going to create from the scratch, due to that it will take a little bit time to do the all these things. We are not focusing much more on the the designing stuff. This is purely coding part. Designing stuff we are not going to do in this session. This is all about the coding stuff. Now let me give a scenario. Okay, what we're going to do, let me draw something and we understand the HTTP things here. Okay, now and you know that few of the you all of your, like if you're working in a project or you're working in a company, you know that always there is a requirement, which requirement you have a two drop down will be there. Just imagine, simple example, you have two drop down will be there. Okay, just like a country and state. Okay, just like a country, and you have another drop down is called state. Okay, and you know that country and state, just like suppose if you're going to select a country, and based on that it's going to load the state. Okay, simple one. Means if you click the country, list of country you are going to see, and once you select the country, we are going to load the list of states. And maybe not country will be state. Some your application, suppose you are going to load one features, based on that going to load another features. Then sometime this kind of features will be there. This is called cascading drop down. Cascading means based on one drop down value, another drop down is going to load the data. Okay, just imagine, I'm for the example what I'm doing, I have two country will be there. One is India, another is US. Okay, and just imagine I have selected the country here. Now once you select the country here, you know that we are going to call one API, the India API, the state API. We are going to pass the parameter called India. Now once you pass the parameter called India, now list of response will come from this API. Now it's going to give the data. Means the process will be, suppose you are going to select one country, then just a second guys, let me do it. Okay, let me do here. You have two country called India and USA. Now selection of one of the country, what we're doing, we are calling one API, right? We are calling one API, and that API going to give us the list of states. Now once the states is there, then what we are doing, we are simply binding the API to the states. This is the way you are doing. Suppose you are calling one, you have the list of data. Once you select the data, you are loading the state. Now here the question is like, okay, first time you select the India, now it's get the state. Second time you select US, now you select the date. Now understand the next problem. The problem is again I select the India. Now what we'll do guys, you again call the API, means just imagine. An example, in India, I'm calling that API. Okay, I'm calling the API, and this API give the response. Second, I call the US and calling the API and get the response. Third, suppose you again select India. Then if you select India, then what will happen guys? Again it will go to call the API, get the response. Right? Now in this case guys, so many times if I go and select the India, US, the country, now that many time you are going to call the states. Okay. Now in this case guys, we have to understand that already in the first call means this is, so just imagine this is number one, number two, number three. In the first call, you have called the API, get the response. Okay. Second call, you call the API, get the response. But third call, you have to imagine that already this is happened here. right? This already, this call is already happened, means already we have the red data, we have the response. Now, why you need to call the same API again and again if the response is already with us? Just understand the problem here. From first two is okay because we are calling first time. But you imagine in second time, what will happen? Now, once you call the same API, we will now need to call the API again and again, because you know that once you call the API, it will go to the server, and server going to process the request. Again, it's going to the database, get the data, will do lot of things, right? Now, what we're going to do it now, or without calling the same API again and again, how we can go and use the existing response of our application. Means already this API got called, we have to store this API response into our client side memory, into our memory, and reuse that response or from the memory when it required. In this case, what will happen? No need to call the same API again and again to the data, to the API, because you know that once you call the API, you are going to consume the client bandwidth also. Apart from that, we have to wait for some time to get the response. Lot of delay will be there. Just imagine there is a API who is getting some thousands of data, or like 10,000 data. Just imagine one API calling, they are giving thousands of data. Now in this case, are you going to call the thousands of data all the time? No, right? Why no? Because what will happen? Because if you're going to call, you know, all the process is going to be start. Instead of doing that,
But
if the same,
burden on the
same,
server will increase.
yes, okay. Now, in this case, you have two things you can do. Either you can implement the server side caching, or you can do the client side caching, right? Now, if you're going to anytime going to send the request to server resource going to use. Nowadays, all are using the cloud infrastructure. Now, you know, cloud infrastructure means each and every hit you are going to pay the money to the provider. For that reason, server side caching also another mechanism. Without going database, we can use the cache data from there. But the things now we are going to understand, we are not going to focus on the server side. Just imagine how the server side using the caching mechanism, same mechanism how you'll go and implement into your client side. That is our motto to understand. I know that few of you are already using the client side, maybe Java, Spring Boot, .NET Core, Python, all different language you are using, Node.js also. But we are not discussing, guys, all the backend stuff, because backend is purely different from the front end stuff. Now we'll go and discuss how this caching mechanism we're going to implement into our application in such a way that the same API going to hit, instead of going to the actual API call, we are going to call from our local cache. Now this is our local request, will go and check that the request is cached or not. If cached, response from here. If not cached, it will go to the server and get the response and cache it. That is our requirement we have to fulfill today. Now let's go. I hope you're able to understand the problem. What is the problem here? We are going to call the same API multiple times. Without calling the same API multiple times, how we can go and call the data from the existing API, whatever existing in the memory. And let's go implement the same thing using the application things. Okay, just understand. Suppose you are creating one application, and that application lots of field will be there, and based on the field response you're getting the lot of data. Just not only this country state, I'm giving an example of country state, but just an example, like user are playing around all this different data. Just like suppose you are booking one flight, and you know that suppose someone is going to click, suppose Hyderabad to Delhi or Delhi to Hyderabad, and suppose you click one of the day, one of the particular date. Now you're going to get the response from the client, response from the API, like this is the pricing. But suppose again we are going to click that one. Now what are you going to do? You are not going to call the API, because already you have an existing data, you're going to reuse that one. Like this is one scenario. Same to same, we have thousands of scenario will come in the project where without calling the same API multiple times, how we can go and implement the things into our application. Okay, now let's go and implement the same thing using the Angular. Let me start the application, guys. Npm start, you know that Npm start is used to start the application. And let me create a new component called ng generate component. Suppose country, let me define this way, ng generate component. Suppose country, caching slash country state. Okay, we are going to create a component called country state, and that component is going to place inside the caching folder. Now once you click this one, you will see that it's going to create a country, it's going to create a component for us. Now see this one. Now inside the SRC folder, we are going to create a caching. Inside caching, we have a component called this one. Okay. Now, let me quickly do one thing. Let me quickly create a like our country state drop down here, and we'll go and use all these things. Let me guys, after you opening this one, let me go to our app component. In app component, I'm going to use app country state. This is your component name, right? And if you're going to run the application, you can see that we can able to see our country state. Now let me design the things. Let me simple do the designing. Suppose I have a heading here that is called caching. Okay. Now here I have two drop down. One is suppose we're going to label called country, and there is a select box which is going to load the list of country. Same to same, I have another one. This is called state, and I have a drop down here. If you're going to open, you can see that I have a country and state here. Let me little bit like zoom. You can able to see this one. Okay. Now here we are going to bind list of country here, like list of country here and list of state here. For that reason, what I'm going to do, let me create a models here. Okay, a models let me create is called I country state dot model dot ts. Guys, always just understand when you're going to create any models. Sorry. Now models, like you must have to create a model to bind the data. Don't use any keyword anywhere. It's required, you have to use, otherwise don't use. Okay. Now let me do like export interface. Let me create an interface. Which interface is going to bind the country and state data? Suppose let me create an interface called I country and state. You know that interface is used to define the our POCO class, like just like attributes of the class that is going to contain. Suppose this is contain, suppose ID and call name. Okay, means we have to define the one is ID and name, which is going to contain the ID of the country, so ID of the value and name of the ID going to bind in the value attribute, and name are going to bind into the our this attribute. Now guys, what also we require a data, which data is going to bind in country and bind in state. Okay. For that reason, guys, I have created one sample XML file, and which XML file actually contain the list of the country and state. Now you can see that in my desktop, I have a folder called JSON. Let me open this JSON file. Okay, I have already created for the demo purpose. I have created because we are not going to consume an API. We have created a JSON file. And JSON file, why I'm saying that JSON file, you also learn about mockup today. What is the use of mockup in the Angular application? Suppose just imagine we have 3 JSON files are available. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me copy this file, copy this folder, and open our project. In assets one, we are going to paste this one. Okay, inside assets, we are going to paste this one, the JSON one. Now, if you open the JSON folder, you can see that the assets folder is used to keep all the static files and folders in the application. Now you can see that we have these 3 files are available. One, you can see that we have a country.json. Sorry, the country.json is contain the array of data. Like this is the array which contain 2 attributes. One is name, another name is code. Code means the code of the country. Name is the name of the country. Same to same, we have another JSON is called India and called US. In India API, you can see that we have all the states and all the union territory available in India. All are listed here. which contain the code and name. Same to same, if you go to US, you can see the same thing. All the states of United States is available here using the code and name. You can see that all the JSON, if you see that all the JSON contain the value called code and name. Now let's go and create the model, whatever model we created, the attribute called code and name. But before that, you have to imagine that, just imagine this is our backend API, means we are going to consume this JSON file into our applications. We are not going to call any third-party API because we don't have anything now. We are going to use the, we have to imagine that these are the API we're going to call. Now let's see one thing. Due to this, all the APIs, all the JSON file contain the attribute called name and code. We're going to define the here name and code here. Now let me name also that's a code. Okay, I country state contain both the name and code. This is the model we are going to bind into our application, right? Now let's go to the component. Let me define two like variable here. One is countries, suppose the country options, which is the I country states. Okay, another one is called the state options. And state options means this is going to store the list of states, and this is going to store the list of countries. Now I country states options equal to array. I have initialize the both the country and state options here, right? Then what we're going to do, we are going to call the API, and that API is going to bind the data. Before going that, what we are going to do now, let's go bind this particular variable, this list of array variable into our UI. And you know that bind that one we have going to use this one option, right? We are going to use option, and option we are going to use the ng for, and you know ng for you are going to use the suppose country options. Okay, country options, and options contain the value attribute, and the value attribute is going to bind the item of code. We're going to bind the code, and the option value data like the label we are going to bind option item dot name. Okay, simple. We are going to iterate that country options, and this country option going to bind both the code and name. Same to same, let me copy this one guys and paste it here. Here instead of country options we are going to use the state options. Okay, now if any value will come to the states, we are going to bind it here. It's pretty much simple one. We are not making complex. We are going to learn the concept here. What happening here, a country option does not exist. Why? Because this file is not saved. I can see that. Okay, we have two things. Data bind got successfully. The only thing we are going to implement, that is called the bind the data, call the API bind the data. And you know that to implement the like API call everything, we have to go to app module file, and here we're going to implement our called HTTP client module, right? Now let me implement the HTTP client module here, like import from @angular common HTTP, and here we're going to implement HTTP client module, right? Let me import the client module here, and you have to know that HTTP client module is always going to be import one. Let me also import another called form module. You know that if you're going to use the any model binding, you must have to use the form modules into our application. Let me save it. Now our application is good. Now what I'm going to do now, we're going to call the API, and that API going to give us the list of country and states. And you know that to call the API, we are going to must have to create a what we are going to create a service, because all the service call we are going to happen inside a service folder. Let me create a service ng generate service. Generate service is called country and state. Let me give the same name, country and state. If you're going to click country and state, if you click on enter, it's going to create a service for us into the just a second guys, I'm going to create a service folder here. Sorry, service folder. Inside service folder, I'm going to create a country state. Now once you click this one, it is going to create a country service folder here, and inside the service folder you can able to see we have a country and states are available, right? This is our service. Now in this service we are going to create a two function. One function is used to get the list of country, and one function is going to use to get the list of states based on the country name. Now let's go and use this one. Before that we have to implement the HTTP one, right? HTTP and HTTP client. This one we have to import, because without HTTP client we cannot able to implement any kind of things. Now HTTP client will be there. And let's go and do other part. We are going to create two function which is going to load all the countries and state. Let's suppose countries. Now in the countries it's going to return list of countries from the API. Same to same. Here going to return this dot HTTP get function. We are going to call I country states, and here we're going to call our static API. Means here you can learn that one thing, how to call the static files assets folder into your application. Here you're going to call dot slash assets slash JSON. JSON is a folder, inside that country.json. See this one, guys. Here you have to know that, just imagine I'm giving another tips here. Suppose you are developing one application. Suppose your backend is not ready. Just imagine backend is not ready. Now how will go and work? Because if the backend is not ready, how you are going to consume the API? In that case, you have to understand the mockup framework. Mockup means what? Whatever API you are consuming. Suppose you are getting list of data which is going to bind your grid. Now, as a developer, what you're going to do, you are going to create a static JSON file into your assets. Okay. And here you are going to create, suppose just like grid, so just like employee.json. And here you're going to add all the dummy data as per the structure you have to add. Structure means you're going to add just a data. Suppose this is the name, this is the address, this is gender, this is date of birth, this is salary, all these things, whatever is the attribute is required to bind into a UI, you go and define the data here. Just like I am defining name and code. Same to same, you can define the employee other information, or like whatever application developing, all the attribute is required, you go define here. Suppose that API is not ready. Instead of doing that, you can bind your local things into your code. Here you are adding the local things here. In future, once you get the API, you have to replace this one and use your actual API. In this case, what will happen? You are not going to no longer waiting for your backend developers. Sorry, no longer going to use, no longer depend upon backend developer. When backend API is ready, you will use it. If not ready, you just create a mockup JSON or just create a dummy JSON and use into your application. To use in HTTP, if you're going to use any kind of the assets JSON file or any file, what you're going to do, you're going to use the dot. Dot means it's always going to represent the root folder. Now dot slash assets, because we are belongs to assets, you know that assets folder is going to attach when going to build the application, because this is the static file. Assets, inside this you are going to give a path hyper JSON. Here you can see that I have given the path hyper JSON just like JSON slash country.json, because this is country, this one. So what I'm going to do now, let's consume this country service into our component, and we're going to use this one. Already all of you know that. Let me do one thing now. Private, suppose service is our country service, right? And here what we're going to do now, we're going to see that how the things is going to work. Now let me load the country. Okay, we're going to load the country. Now how going to load the country? Let me write a function private load country. Okay, and here I'm going to use this dot service dot countries and dot subscribe. Here going to results, and in this results we are going to bind these dot country options equal to results, right? This is the things we are doing. And let load this function into the this dot load country, right? Let me save the application. Once you save, you can able to see that we can able to see India and US here, right? Let us consume. If you right click and inspect, you can able to see that. If you're going to refresh, you can see that it's calling this API country, this one, right? Now this thing is added, but we have to select one thing. Let me do add a blank top of this one, blank item top of this one. At least we'll get a option. Okay, blank item I have added. At least we can able to select this one, India or US. Now next part is we are going to bind the state. But you know that state is going to bind based on the country value, because our JSON contain India and US. Now what we are going to do, like this drop down, we are going to on the change event of this drop down, what we're going to do, we are going to call the state API. This state API is going to bind it. Now simple. Now let me create a function called handle country change. Now this function is going to call into our this on change event. You know that select contain the on change event, and sorry, change event. In change event I'm going to call this function. This function name is called handle country change, right? Now what we're going to do, how to get the access the value this code. For that reason, let me define a variable here called country ID or country code. This is a string, default value the blank, and this country code I'm going to use here as a ng model. Okay, you know that ng model is used to do a data binding, right? Now save it. Now on the change of this country, what we're going to do, we are going to call this function. This function calling here will go simply go and console dot log this dot country code, this dot country code. Let me save it. Once you save, if you go and go to inspect, and once you select this country India, you can see that I can able to see the India here. If you're going to select US, it's going to give the US here, right? Now next part is our, based on the selected value, we are going to call our API, right? Simple. Now create another function is called state. States, and the states we are going to pass the country code, right? We're going to pass the country code as a string. Guys, you can see that everywhere I have used the proper typing. As a developer going forward to write a program, always use a proper typing. If there is no type, use any. Any always fix that any will come later. Last means always come at last. Don't think, okay, any is giving us, we are going to use any. No. You can see here I am proper following the step. Like I am creating the class, I am creating interface, I'm using the interface. Why I'm using? This is the coding standard you must have to follow, because as a developer, or are you going to become a developer, you must have to know that how you are going to write the code. Everywhere you require, don't use any keyword. Any keyword, I am telling too many times, any keyword is disaster for the program. Going forward, after 6 months, you don't know what you written. For that reason, proper way you have going to write the things. Now you have states, we are passing the country code. Now what I'm going to do, the country code we have for India and US. Here what I'm going to do, I'm going to bind the data, and for that reason I'm going to use this one. I'm going to bind the data, whatever data country code is coming, this coming here. Okay, like US will come us.json, India will come India.json. As of now we have constraint, due to that we did this way, right? Now what will happen, now in this here we are going to call, if this dot country code is available, means the country code contains the value, then only this dot service, the dot states, and the states are going to pass the this dot country code dot subscribe. You know, subscribe is used to call the API, and we're getting the results. And in the results, what we're going to do, this dot states option, okay, states option equal to result. Pretty much simple, right? You are also doing the same thing. Let me save it, and we are actually, our problem will start now. Now see this one. Now first page load is calling the country.json. Now if you're going to country.json, next me call the India, you can see that it's called India.json. Once you call India.json, you can able to see that we're getting our all the states and union territory in the states option, right? Same to same, if you're going to call the US here, now you can see that we are getting the all the US states. Now let's see the another problem here. You can see here already we call the india.json. Let me again call the India. Now you can see that once you call the India again, it's calling the India JSON again. I am know that this is just an example, but for your application, you are doing the same thing, right? On change of country, you are going to call the another API, right? Change of something, you are going to call the another API. But you can see this, guys, in these two API, there is no difference, because if I go and click on this India one, you can see that we can able to see list of response is coming from the our API. Same to same, if you go to last API also, if you go to click, you can also see that we are getting the same response. But the things will be here, request is not changed, same API I'm calling, same API I'm calling. But the problem is here, if I going to call this n number of times, you can see that it's calling that API that many times. You can see that it's calling that many times. India, India, US, US is calling. Now here is our problem. The problem is here, like why we are not using the existing one? Why you are calling the same API again and again? In this case, we are going to discuss how we are going to implement our application in such a way that if one of these API is already called, how the response we can utilize throughout the application. Guys, why we are utilizing application? Because we are using the single page application. Single page application means until and unless if you don't refresh the page, every state you can maintain, right? Everything you can maintain. You can maintain everything in the application. That's the reason we are going to implement this thing. If this is not a single page application, there is no necessity of using the caching mechanism into our application. Now let's go and implement how the caching is help us to achieve this task. Means if I'm going to implement the caching, okay, once I call the India here, okay, if I'm going to call India here, next time call India again, it's not going to call the actual API. It will get the data from our existing API. That is the thing we are going to implement the performance, because you know that once you, if you're not going to call the same API again, now if you're going to get from a memory, now you know that this is not going to API. Just imagine you have a real API. It's not going to the server, not going to execute all these things, not going to do all the things. Now we are going to implement how you can go and use inside this HTTP using the things. Now let's go to our actual implementation. Now whatever we discuss, we just discuss about our problems. Now let's go and discuss about actual our solutions. Here you can see that because we are dealing with our all the we are dealing with our all the HTTP things, means all the API, all these things. Now you guys know that there is a concept in like our Angular, that is called the interceptor, and you all know that interceptor is a functionality which is used to intercept the request and response. That you have to know that. If you don't know interceptor, this is a problem. But we're going to see that, we'll discuss about interceptor now, but you know that interceptor is used to create a middleware between your request and response. That's the reason we are going to implement interceptor into our application, because due to our request is going to cast and request is going to work. That's the reason we are going to see that how the interceptor is used to helps us to achieve this task. And let's go create one interceptor, and interceptor we are going to implement our caching mechanism. Okay, now to create an interceptor, you can go and manually create. Let me use our CLI tool. Let me open the terminal. Let me create here ng generate interceptor. Just a second, guys. Interceptor, and here I'm going to create, suppose you want to create, suppose caching. Okay, you can see that, guys. Now if you see this, we have a generate a interceptor. What interceptor we generate? We have generated a interceptor called caching interceptor. Okay, and you know that this is the simple code. Like you have a interceptor, and that interceptor must have to implement the HTTP intercept, and this intercept is going to do lot of things for us. And here, if you implement HTTP interceptor, now you know that there is a function called intercept, and this intercept contains two things. One is request, another is next. Now let's go and do what we're going to do that. Now, guys, you know that whatever request you'll send, whatever API going to call, that is called the request. And next means how we are going to handle the request, that is called the HTTP handler. You have to know these things. Now in the application, you are not going to cache all the things. Means every URL not going to cache. You have some selected URLs you are going to cache. For that reason, we have to define that whatever request is coming, that request is cacheable or not. If that request is cacheable, then only we can able to do the caching. Otherwise, we are not going to do the caching for everything. Just example, you are not going to cache the post method, you are not going to cache the suppose you are not going to cache the delete method, because these are the real things, right? People, if people submitting something, that case it should not be cached. But sometimes we are caching the get one, just like our example, we are going to this method is a get method, right? We are going to cache this one. Now here in HTTP interceptor, you are going to write that intercept function, or you are going to write that kind of logic, which is go and check that whatever request is coming, that request is actually need to be cached or not. Then only you are going to do your operation. For that reason, let me create a function called is request cacheable. Okay, is request need to be cacheable. If it is cacheable, then we'll go and we'll implement our application. Okay, now let's see. Here is request cacheable means this is going to return true or false. Let me return type as a boolean. Okay, now is request cacheable means we are going to pass the request here. We're going to pass the request here. It's going to check the request. Now how you'll go and access the request value, the what is the method of the request? Here you're going to check that. Okay, if request dot method. Okay, method, this request contain a property called method, which is going to give you the method whatever you are sending. Suppose you are sending get, it will get get. If you go to pass post, you're going to pass post. Now let me here implement, this is called the get. If the request get, I'm saying that I'm only going to request, I'm only going to cache the method if it's coming as get. Guys, I'm just implementing here. For your scenario, suppose you want to cache post also, you can do that. It's up to you what you're going to cache. Now if nothing, I'm going to return the value called false. By default going to return false. If the our requirement is going to satisfy, then only it's going to be give the true. Now another things, sometimes you need to be cache, you no need to be cache everything. Everything means you no need to cache all the API. You have some selected API you want to cache. Some cases will come, right? Sometimes what will happen, you only want to cache this API, you don't need to cache the other API. Suppose you have another API don't want to cache. For that reason also you can add the filter code also here. Filter code means you will get the request, suppose just request dot URL. This request dot URL is going to give you all the whatever request you are sending, you will get it here. And you can also write your filter code. Filter code means suppose you want to filter which API you need to which API need to be added into caching, which API no need to add into caching. All these things you can add a filter code. But as of now, the filter code just if else condition you can write it. But as of now, I'm not writing all these things. I can simply return true. Means if my method will be get, then I return okay, this method, this request will be cacheable. If the request is not get, it should not be cacheable. Now this here you can write your own filter code, guys. I left to you how you can go and implement the things. You can write your own code here, but simply return the true here. Now what I'm going to do it now, in the first I'm going to check that whatever request is coming, you know that what is intercept, interceptor is going to middleware between request and response. Now here what we're going to do now, we are going to check that if this dot is request cacheable, I'm going to pass the request. If this is going to return true, if you return true, we are going to do our work. If not, then simply return request dot handle, otherwise request dot handle. Simple. Just imagine. This is the else part. If I don't write else part, we're going to do the things. If request is cacheable, okay guys, understand, if the request is cacheable, we are going to do our things. Otherwise, we are going to simply do our whatever the default code, we are going to do that. Means if request is not cacheable, we can do the default work, right? Default work means just next dot handle is used to do the stuff. Otherwise, what will happen? We are going to do our actual work. Now let's go do our actual works. Understand what I did? In the request, I write a condition here. If the request, whatever request is coming, that request is going to be cacheable or not. The logic you're going to write it here, and this is going to return true or false. If the request is cacheable, we are going to implement actual our caching mechanism. And if it's not cacheable, we'll go and implement our non-cacheable request. Like you will do the default things. Whatever default code will be there, we're going to write it. Now we got it. Okay, our request is caching. Need to be cache. Need to be cache. Okay. Now here we have to see that. Okay, how can do that? How can do caching, guys? Now we are going to use one data structure here that is called the map. Guys, day by day, if you're going to write any program, you have to always think about data structure algorithm. Algorithms is okay, that is the logic you have to think, but you have to think that which data structure is used for doing which work. Now here, what is my plan I want to do? Let's discuss about the plan, then we'll go and do the implementation. Let me open the Microsoft Paint here. Now here you can see that what I'm going to do now. My objective is, now first thing, we are getting all the request. Guys, request means we are getting the URLs, right? The which URL is going to call. Now what we're going to do now, we are going to create a table here. Okay, we are going to create a table here. That table contain two parts. What part? First part is contain the URL. Second part is going to contain the response. Okay, URL, and second part contain the response. Okay. Now, if the URL A, just imagine there is a list of data going to create. Okay. Just imagine, suppose URL is india.json. Just imagine india.json. That time, the URL is contain the response or not. If response contain, we'll get from here. Just imagine no. Just imagine no response. There is no data is available. There is no data available. Simply go and call the API. Okay, simply go and call the API. Okay, I'm calling the india.json, and india.json, I'm checking that response is available. The in memory response is available. No, memory response is not available. Simply go and call the API. When the API will give you the response, right? When API is going to give you the response, then what will happen? What you will do? Just a second, guys. You need to send the request. You need to send the request. And once you send the request, that time you will once you get the response, okay, you are sending the request and response, and this response you will go and store into this place. Means response you are going to store in this place. Means you are going to store the response here. Okay, let me write it. You're going to store the response here. Same to same, we'll go for usa.json. This is our API. Just imagine this is API. I'm just writing JSON because you're able to understand the things. Now first we'll check, okay, response is available. No, response is not available. Then go and do the same step. Which step? This step. We'll go and call the API. Once the API will call, API going to give the response. Once the response will receive, then we will go and store the data here. This is called USA response, and this is the India response. Next time, if you're going to call the same API, india.json, it will going to check, okay, response is available. Yes, this is the response is available. If the response is available, then no need to do this step. Got it? No need to do this step. This step is already performed by our earlier. Now this thing we are going to remove, and we're going to give the data from our existing response. Understand, guys, what we are going to do now? Let me repeat again for a better understanding. Like initially we're going to call the india.json. That time we don't have any kind of response because the response is no longer available into our memory. That time what we're going to do now, we're going to call one API. This is the request. Red, the black one is request. We're going to call the API, this API URL. Okay. Now this URL is going to give the response. Once it's going to give you response, and this response you are going to store into here. Okay. Same to same. Next time you're calling another API, us.json, check that available, not available, call the API, and once response will come, stored here. Next time, now how many times completed? First time is got call. Second time you're going to call, then what will happen? It will check that, okay, this is the URL. Now the response is available. Yes, the response is available because already last request we stored the response. Now here, what we are going to do, instead of calling this API process request and response, we are going to call from our response. We are going to call our existing data. But you got it clear, right? This is the way we're going to implement. But the things will be, okay, how we can store this data? We are going to store this data. We're going to store data in the variable, or we're going to store in anything else? No, guys. Here you can see that if you know the dictionary, if we are going to use that data structure here, you have to imagine we are going to use a dictionary concept of thing. Dictionary means dictionary content. If you see any dictionary, this is contain two things. One is called key, another is called value. Key value means key is always be unique and value is going to be value. Just like a dictionary, if you know the Oxford dictionary, any dictionary, if you open, there is a English word, and the English side of the English word, there is a meaning of that meaning will be any language. That may be in Hindi, that may be in English, that may be Telugu, Tamil, any language, that doesn't matter. But you have to know that every key in the dictionary always be unique. Same key, like like English is not going to be seeing English word, is not going to repeat multiple times, because every time you will get one English word, and that is the meaning of that. For that reason, guys, dictionary is represent from that, this our application. Dictionary is inherited from our actual dictionary. To implement dictionary, what is the dictionary is the use of this one? The URL for us is the key, right? For us, this URL is the key, because without URL, what going to do? And for our application, the key is always be unique. URL is going to be unique. The same India JSON will come. We are not going to store because already India JSON is there. For that reason, URL is for key, and value is our response, because based on the key, we are going to get the value. This is the way it's going to work. See this one, guys. Key here, the URL, and value is our response. I have previously I have just imagined this way, but if you think we are going to use the dictionary key value like data structure into application, store this type of value. Now let's go how we can go and implement this key value mechanism into our application first. To use the dictionary into our application in a like in types, like in a JavaScript, we have to use the concept called map data structure. Map class is data structure which is used to implement the dictionary into our application. Let me do a variable called, suppose, cas map. Okay, cas map equal to new map. You know that map function is going to take two value, key and value. As per you discuss, you can see here, this is called key and value. Now we have to define what kind of key and what kind of value data type we are going to use. Okay, first we are going to focus on that, then we'll go and discuss about other things. Now let's go and define what is the key and what is the value we are going to define into our application. Now here we are going to define our first one is our key. Key is our string, because we are going to store our data in format of URL. URL always going to be string, right? And next one we are going to use things called response, right? The response instance will be HTTP response. Okay, it will be HTTP response. Just a second, guys. HTTP response. And HTTP response means this is going to, whatever response will come from the API, that response is going to store inside this HTTP response, right? Got it? Now this is going to store the caching value of request and response. See this one, guys. Now I have created a cache map. This cache map is going to store the URL here, and whatever response will come from here, it's going to store it here. Here, what we're going to do that first, whatever request is coming, we are going to check that that request is present inside the cache or not. Just like a fast request will come, we'll check that this data is exist here or not. If it exists, then we will use, otherwise it's not going to be used. For that reason, what I'm going to do, first we'll check request URL is exist or not. For that reason, let me define a variable called URL equal to request.url.toLowerString. Why I'm doing lower string, sometimes it will be capital or lower. We are making everything as lowercase. Okay. Now what we're going to do now, check. How to check that particular URL is existing cache map or not. For that reason, I'm going to write if this dot cache map is the instance of our caching, then has function is used to check that whatever key you are going to pass, that key is exist or not. In our case, key is our URL. You remember, now you're going to pass the URL here. Which URL you are going to get from the request. If it's exist, then okay. If not exist, what we're going to do? Okay, not exist. If it exists, then we are going to see that okay, if it exists, the return from this existing value. Just imagine, already exist. If it exists, we are going to get the data. If not exist, what are we going to do? Now exist part we are going to do later. This is simplest part. We are going to first do the not exist part. If you remember, as I told, if it not exist, we are going to first send the request. Then from the request, we will get the response. And from the response, we are going to set the value of this key, right? Now, same to same. Now, how to send the request? You know that to send a request, we're going to use next.handle. Remember, return next.handle is a function which is used to forward the request to the next. For that reason, next.request. Now here, how you know that response is back or not? Because request is used to send the request, right? Now you have to know that how the response will be back or not. You know that in our application, in our all the observables, because if you see mouse over here, handle return type will be observables. In RxJS, observables, suppose you want to change anything about the observables, then you have to going to use the pipe one. You know the pipe is the middleware for the observables. It's the RxJS function. Okay. Now here what we're going to do, we are going to wait for the response. Okay. Now you send the request. After request will go, then what we're going to do, you are wait for the response. When response come, that time you are going to send the value. Now how going to use for the response? Then you have to use the tap. Tap means, guys, what? It's going to check each and everything whatever coming from that particular like request, right? It's going to check that one. Tap one by one, going to tap which one is our things is going to work. Then let me tap called event. What is event? I'm going to discuss. As I told, tap means is going to tap the response. That will going to check each and every response is an object, right? Whatever coming from the server, it's a response. In the response, we're going to check that okay, this is a response. Yes, if this is a response, then make it set. If not response, ignore. We have to remember that tap is going to check one tapping, you know that same tapping functionality, this is coming as a tap function. Now tap is going to check that if my event, whatever events is coming from the response, is a instance of HTTP response. Because sometimes your the request may be failed, that may be sometimes your request is going to be different kind of HTTP progress, HTTP failed, HTTP error, lot of type of different things will come. Now what we require, if our response is the HTTP response, means if whatever coming from the server is the HTTP response, then what we're going to do, we're going to set the response to the key. What key? Now this dot cache map dot set, you know that set function is used to set the data, set the key, set the dictionary value. our key is this, our key is URL, right? Because this is the our key, and our response is called the event. Got it? Now just guys, what I did, same pictorial view I converted to code. First I send the request, means return next dot handle. Again I waiting for the response, because how going to set it, I waiting for response means I put a pipe inside that. This pipe is going to add a middleware into observables. You know the middleware, if the HTTP is the middleware for our HTTP request, same to same, any observables you are add any middleware, then you can go and implement the pipe there. Now pipe, inside the pipe you get the data. I know that in the pipe here people are mostly using the map, but here we are using tap. Tap means it will go and tap 1111 response from the request. If yeah, we'll discuss that one. Now in this case we are going to check the someone act like how what happened if the response got an error. Now here we're going to check that. First we'll go to a good part, then we'll go for negative scenario. Okay, now if the instance of whatever response is come is the instance of HTTP response, then we are going to set the cache map here. Now you can see that whatever cache, our cache URL is URL, and value is whatever response is come. Now here we can able to set the things. Now this is not exist. Now if exist means if the data is exist, then what we're going to do, let me define a variable called, suppose response equal to this dot cache map dot get. Now get if function is used to get the value from the cache, from dictionary. If you're going to pass this key, then it will going to give you the value. This is called the get function. Now here our key is URL. You can see that URL is playing the most vital role for all the things, because we are caching the URL. Now if the response is there, if the response is available, simply do one thing, not true, because anyhow the URL will be there, response will be there. Return off operator, or off operator in RxJS, which is going to convert any like variable anything to observables. Now you are going to pass a response. Okay, I know that it will going to give an error because it's in the undefined. Let me write as HTTP response any. Okay, now see that, you have to see that here, this is the way it's going to, if the data exists, we are going to simply return the value from the cache and pass the cache, return the value. Now our HTTP interceptor is completed. Now we'll go and I'll open for the question for this one, but let's go and implement this thing first. We'll see the result, all these things, then we'll go for the negative testing and the questions. Okay, now you know that if you're going to add any interceptor, you need to register that interceptor into our module. For that reason, we'll go to our this one, which one, our app.module files, and app.module files in the provider will go and register this one. To register a interceptor, we're going to write the provide will be HTTP interceptor, right? And then use class is the function attribute is going to, which class is going to use a HTTP interceptor. Our name is cache interceptor, right? This is our, just a second guys, this one. And second one, use multi equal to true, because we are in future we are going to use multiple interceptor. Due to that we are using multi equal to true. Okay, now let's see what will happen. If you're going to compile this application, it's going to compile successfully. Now let's see the actual things. Let me go and put the India here. Once you click the India, it's going to call the API. Okay, next call the US here, it's going to call the US API. Next me go and call the India again. If you're going to call India again, you can see that nothing is called. You see that no API got called. If you're going to call US also, nothing is called. If you're going to call India again also, nothing is called. Same to same guys, you can see that all the response, if you're going to call n number of times, you can see that nothing is happening, no API getting called. And what will happen in this case, we are getting all the data from the existing things. Now let do one thing guys, we'll go and debug this application and understand what flow we are doing here. Okay, then we'll go and open for the question and answer. Go to next, check for the next, check for the existing one. Now open the source. Also you're going to learn how to debug the things. Today also you're going to additionally get the debug the things. What you're going to do, go to your source, and this debug is only applicable for your development, means for your local, not for the production one. Production one, every code going to be compiled, you will not get a source map for that one. For that reason, we will go to source, and here press the control P. Control P is used to open or find the file, open the file. Press the control P and search that the particular file, which file you want to put the breakpoint or do the debugging. Our file will be cache interceptor, right? If you don't type, it will going to automatically come. This is our entire cache interceptor code, right? In this code, we'll go and write our things. Now let's click breakpoint here. We'll go and check one by one line. Okay. Now guys, our every data is reset. Nothing is available here. Our country and everything will be reset. Let me select an India here. You can see that breakpoint is fire. Okay. You know that to go to forward breakpoint, we are going to press the F10. Otherwise, you can go for this one, R1. Next step, F10 also can press. First one, request is cacheable or not. Now we're going to put the breakpoint here. If you're going to continue, you can see that request is coming. Request method is get. We're going to say that, okay, request method is get. If it's get, then going forward, returning true. Now the request is getting get, it's true. Now next, go forward. So mouse over URL, you can see that our URL is this one, assets.json.india. This is our URL is calling, because this URL calling, right? Now we're going to check that this URL is exist into our cache or not. For that reason, if you go to mouse over the cache, you can see that. Okay guys, sorry, this is just a second. 2 times it got called. Let me remove this one. We call the India. Let me go here, and if I go again, cache map, why this country default is storing? Okay, you can see that our URL is coming at india.json. If it's coming india.json, you can see that india.json is not exist in this keys. For that reason, it's going to the else part. If you see that, it will go into the else part, this part, right? Once you go to this part, we are going to put the pipe here. If you're going to continue, you can see that it's coming to this one. Now if you see that type event, what is the event type? It's nothing is there. Let me, it's not an instance of HTTP response. Let me continue. You can see that it's coming as HTTP response. If coming as HTTP response, you can see that all the information from the service is coming. Body, whatever data is coming, headers also coming, all the things is coming. Now here you can see that if you're going to continue, it's calling that our response is contain HTTP things. Now whatever responses come here, you can go and save it here. Now continue. Same to same, I'll go and put for the US. Once you put the US, it's going to check the request is cacheable. Yes. Now it's saying that request is USA. If I go to this one, you can see that already the request is as cached here. No, US is not here, right? This is only the country and India is here. Now if you go forward, the same thing is happening. Okay. Now it's going to check and continue. But if you're going to again select the India here, what will happen? You can see that it is going to check the request is cacheable. Yes. Now it will go to check the URL. URL is india.json. Now you're going to check that this cache is content URL or not. If you're going to mouse over here, you can see that this is our URL, india.json. If you cache map, you can see that already there is a key called india.json. Now, okay, this is content. We're going to forward. Instead of going to the else part, it's going to the exist part, right? Now here we are getting the response. Once you get the response, you can see that we are getting the exact same response, whatever response we get previously in this function, right? Now here, using the op operator, we are simply returning the data. You can see that if you're going to returning the data, it's not going to this one. Due to that, we are not calling the actual API. We are going to consume only the same API here. Okay. This is the way you can able to implement our things. Now let's do the error function. Error way. Error way means, let me do one thing. in our country API, let me add is another country is called suppose Japan. Okay, and here it will be called Japan. Sorry, Japan. Now in this case, if I go and run this application, you can see that just a second, guys. Let me remove all the breakpoints here. Now you can see that we have three countries. Okay, we have three countries here, and let me go and select the Japan. You're going to call Japan, you can see that 404 is happened. Let me go and put the breakpoint here. Now in this case, we're going to put the breakpoint here, event HTTP response, right? Just a second, guys. Let me refresh and put the breakpoint here. Let me select country called Japan. Once you select Japan, you can see that it's not calling this one. You can see that error is not going to handle here. Error is going to handle in a separate thread. Let me do the same thing here again. Refresh, call Japan. You can see that not happening, because you have to think that HTTP response will not come here if the request is not success, in not the 2000 okay, because response, this is going to handle another error. You are going to add a error pipe here. The error pipe you can able to handle, you know how to handle the global error. In that case, we are using the error pipe. That time we are going to use the error pipe. If the error pipe will come here, same as tap pipe, you are going to use the error pipe. Then if any error will come into this particular observables, that is going to handle there. For that reason, if you're going to implement error things, you can go and use the error pipe here, error method here of the observables, and you can do your task. This is the way you can able to manage your success and response. I have only did for success, because if there is no success, there is no need to do the caching, right? For that reason, I simply ignore the error part. All are the success part. Okay, now before going to next part, this is open for the questions. Anyone any doubts, anything, please feel free to ask me. Hope who asked the question regarding the error part, like he or she got clear, right, about these things. Okay, you're clear, guys. This is the way you need to implement your caching mechanism into your application, because just imagine this is a small one. Now you will ask me a question, why I need to add this kind of logic into application, because I can simply do a define a variable, I can do a caching on that. Guys, this implementation is for global level. Global level means this is not for only for one API. Into your application, suppose you want to create a global level of implementation for your caching mechanism into your Angular application, you can go and use the HTTP interceptor. Always understand one thing, interceptor, HTTP interceptor you are using, if that interceptor means it's a like middleware means it's just a middleman between two person, just like this one. It's going to take one person request, it's going to take another person request, summarize everything, give you a response. Same to same, anything you want to play with your anything you are going to play with your HTTP things, simply go and create an interceptor, and that interceptor is going to play anything, because you will get a request and you will get a next. You can go and control everything from an application, what you're going to do, what you're not going to do, everything going to happen by these things. Okay, this is the way you can able to things. You know that you people are setting the authorization header, you people are using the different kind of setting the parameter of a header. All these things you are doing the help of the HTTP interceptor. Also in HTTP interceptor also, you are able to handle the global error also. Suppose any 4.0 error will come, you want to redirect to the suppose login page. Some 5.3 error will come, you are going to redirect to the different page. Same way you can write your different kind of logic in HTTP interceptor, where you can go and manipulate bit by bit of our HTTP things. That's the way HTTP interceptor is most vital role in the application. And you know that if you're going to attend the interview also, the first question everyone going to ask, like in the after the some basic question, people are going to ask about interceptor. Always you have to think that interceptor just like a middleman, means you have someone, suppose this is the one request, and suppose this is the um, this is the response. Okay, this is the response, and interceptor is going to work as a middleman between this thing, means you can do anything between the request and response. Suppose request is coming, you can change anything. Response is coming, you can change anything. You can change everything between request and response. That's the way interceptor is comes to picture. Not only this HTTP interceptor, in future also you're going to learn about the global error handling. Error interceptor also there, who is going to handle all the application error into your Angular application. This is the way you can able to manage our HTTP interceptor, right? Now guys, you can see that how the caching is work in the help us to improve the quality of application programming API. Going forward, if you are working somewhere or you are learning somewhere, try to do implement same kind of functionality. You can, guys, this is the basic implementation. Here you can do write your filter code. Here you can also write your error code. What happen if the error will come? All these things you can write it here, right? In this case, go and optimize this code and use based on your requirement. That is going to be actual implementation. Okay. Now, I know that the first one a little bit longer because I make it longer because first you have to understand all this problem. Now this is done, right? And let's go for next one. Is called Google Lighthouse. I know that few of you know, maybe heard about Google Lighthouse. Few of maybe not able to heard about Google Lighthouse. And let's understand what is Google Lighthouse. Google Lighthouse, you have to know everything. Already you know Google Lighthouse, but you never use this one. What happened in the Google Lighthouse, guys? When this is just a simple application, right? When you are developing a large scale application, now what happened day by day, your coding getting increased, right? How your coding get increase, your bundle size are going to be increased. Got it? You already know that. What is bundle size? Right click here and go to view source. You can see that we have list of files are there here, like main.js, vendor.js, runtime.js, polyfill.js. Polyfill.js doesn't matter, but the main.js and this vendor.js file going to increase day by day if you're going to write much more code. And if you see the size of this code, if you go to our compiler, if you go and open this one, you can see that here they are written what is the size of each and every files. This is the thing you have to know. You can see that the main.ts is 18.96 KB and runtime this is the KB. They have written all these things. Why I'm saying all these things? Guys, as I told, like if the day by day your application getting increased, like lots of component, lots of modules, lots of different pipes, directives you are adding. Now, when your code base is going to increase, your application size also going to increase. But what happening? You know that sometimes you will get a chunk error. Have you ever know what is chunk error? Sometimes suppose you are using some file is not getting loaded properly in your application, you will get the error called chunk error. Okay, what will happen in chunk error? In chunk error, the entire file is not going to load properly. Partial file going to load means suppose your bundle size is 2 MB. Due to your bandwidth is low, what will happen? Instead of loading the 2 MB file at a time, the browser is failed to load 2 MB, it's only load 1 or 1.2 MB or 1 MB. Apart from that, what will happen? Other 1 MB left. Due to that, you are not able to completely see that page. For that, what happen? You will get a blank page sometimes. In Angular application, if you know that, you will get blank page sometimes, and that time that problem will happen because you will get the concept called chunk error. I know that chunk error will not get here because our application is very small, only one page time, one page application. Due to that, you will not get that much error. But if you are working a company, sometimes you go to network, do one thing. What you're going to do, I'll let you know that. Go to network, click on this throttling. Okay, throttling, go to click and click here your this one. Which one? Present, fast 3G, slow 3G, offline. Offline means you completely disconnect the internet. Otherwise, you can add a custom profile. Custom profile means suppose you want to control your network. Guys, I know that this Google Chrome tool is the god for us. As a developer, you must have to know everything. This is content end to end of software development. I know that if people are maybe used, not be used, but just understand. Suppose you want to control your network, you have to see that in the lowest network how my application going to work. That is also a network performance. Okay, third one want to add, fourth one, network performance. What is network performance? Understand how you can go and control your request. Suppose, just imagine, I'm going to say you here what I'm going to do. Let me go to lowest. I'll define what is lowest. I have defined my custom profile, and here I'm going to select the India. Will say that it will take too many times to load this drop down. You can see that this time also drop down is not loaded. Okay, after so many times this is getting loaded. Guys, this is called the network throttling. Means suppose you want to add your custom, just imagine how the people are testing how my application is going to work in low network. For that reason, what you will do, in the network tab, you will go to the throttling one. Okay, throttling one. Here you can simply click and you can see that by default these are the available: fast 3G, slower 3G, offline. Offline means you are going to completely offline. Okay, now here you can also add your custom profile. What is custom profile? Suppose you want to set, okay, I need to work on suppose 2 kbps, or I want to work on 1 mbps. You can increase the speed. Increase means what will happen, like your broadband content, that one. But this is used for the your like network change. Like if you simply go and click on the add, you can see that you can add your custom profile. You can see here for for the demo purpose, I have added a bandwidth called waste. So 1 kilobyte per second means it, like whatever request will go, it will go only for 1 kilobyte per second. Same to suppose you are going to add your own profile. Just click on add custom profile. Here you can going to give a profile name. What is your download speed? What is your upload speed? Okay. In this case, what will happen, guys? Now, based on that, your request going to be happen. If you go to the network tab, it will automatically get the here. You can select your particular which band you want to use, which speed you are going to use. Based on that, your request going to work. Let me do one thing. If I refresh now, if you're going to select India, you can see it's loading very fast, right? Now same to same, if you're going to change to lowest, you can see that if you're going to India, it should take too much time. You can see that it's going to the request, and this is the request, right? In the network, you can see that request is still pending. See it here, still pending. Okay, now it's coming. Why it's coming? Because due to we have added our network performance. And this is the way you can able to manage our application performance, right? Now okay, this is the one of the first you have to know this one. This is the good tool, guys. Suppose we are developing an application where people are using in the network. Suppose they are using very mobile network. How you can check the mobile network? Because you cannot check mobile network, right? To check mobile network, you have to use your, either you can go for 3G, 4G, 5G, whatever speed you want to go, you can add it. Otherwise, you can add your custom profile. It's up to you how you can use it. Okay. Now, next goes to our, this part is done, network performance. Okay, this part is out done, network performance. Let's go for next one. It's called Google Lighthouse. In Google Lighthouse, you have to understand what is Google Lighthouse. Guys, how you know that how your application going to work into the suppose in mobile. How you know that how our application going to work on different devices? What is the first paint is going to do? Paint means like painting of your rendering of your application. How much time it taking to render the application? Lot of things will be there. For that reason, what we're going to do, in our developer, open the developer tools. Here you have an option called Lighthouse. Here that this is option called Lighthouse. Once you click on Lighthouse, you can able to see this one. Let me control 0. You can see that this is the Lighthouse tool. Here you can see that we have an option called generate Lighthouse report. The Lighthouse report, what you're going to do, you have to go into select that. Okay, navigation. What you're going to do, you're going to use your navigation or not. Navigation means it's go one by one, whatever the URL will be there, that's going to navigate. Second, and where you're going to run, you are going to run on the mobile or you're going to run on the desktop. Due to we are using the desktop now, we are going to use the desktop. Later we're going to go and report, generate report for the mobile. Right hand side, you can see that we have different type of things available. Suppose you are going to check the like performance, how the application is going to be load. Second, I'm going to check the accessibility. You know that accessibility code is used for the disabled people, physical challenged people, actually basically for the people who are not able to see the things. For that, we are going to use the accessibility. Best practice, what is the best practice is going to check. Is your site is SEO enabled or not, going to check. Finally, if your application is progressive web app, it's going to check. But you know that Single page application, we are not going to do the SEO tag. You can simply ignore this one. If you want, you can do that. It's up to you. But as of now, let me select everything, and you can do one thing. Go to analyze page report. Once you click the analyze page report, what it's going to do, it's going to warm up. Warm up means it's going to do its own automation script is going to run. Automation script, what it's going to do, it's going to run the application, going to check all the things. Once everything is completed, it's going to give you a report. And let's see what happening in the case. Now see, now this thing guys, what happened here. After you run this our application, you can see that this is our application performance. We don't have PWA, progressive web app. For that is getting reachable. We know that our application is not good for SEO. For that is getting 89%, but accessibility best practice is perfect because we are not using anything. That's the reason accessibility. But you can see that performance is getting down. Performance, some of the company, they are saying that light cell performance must be greater than 80%. That depend upon. Now we'll see that how the things is going to be affected by us. What happened in the caching? It's saying that performance value of the estimate can or performance source is calculated. All this thing. Fast content paint. This is called FCP. First understand what is fast content paint. Guys, fast content paint means first understand fast content paint. Guys, understand what is a fast content paint. This is the most important part. As a web developer, you have to know all the web browser things. Means what happened when the browser going to load the first time your application. First time means before displaying anything, what happening your application, that is called fast content paint. Means displaying the fast content to you, how much time it will take. It's taking 2.7 seconds. That is not good. It should be always be milliseconds. It's always going to 2.7 seconds. That's the reason is going to be content paint. Why it's happening guys? Because we are using our development build. If you go for a production build, it definitely is going to be increased, because you know that in development build we are getting the lot of our source map file, because without source map we cannot going to we are not going to do any kind of debugging. For that reason we are going to use the concept called like the build. If you implement this same thing using the production build, this value going to be changed. For that reason we have to understand. But after also that, if a bundle size will be increased, this is going to be problem. For that reason, what we are going to do now, here you have to see that fast content paint. This is always happen when the first time the application is going to be load. Okay, this need to be improved. Speed index, how your application going to be speed. Guys, the speed going to vary, because as I told, we are doing the development build. This is going to be things we're going to be change. And largest content paint content full paint means how many time we go to like this is going to slow the network and check that how much time taking the content to load. That is called the largest content paint, and this is going to take 3 seconds. Time to interact, how many time it is used the light cell to interact with our application, is 2.8 seconds. I'll run again, you will see that this thing is going to be changed. All these things displaying. Okay, if you go and view tree map, you can see that this is the tree map, how what are the things getting taking time. You can say that vendor.js is 2.3 like MB. If you go here and click on the view tree map, you can see here this is the things called vendor.js 2.3 MB. Just imagine to download the 2.3 MB, how much time it will take. Just imagine if a network will be slow, it will take much more time, right? For that reason, it will always take based on your size of your JS file. Everything going to depend. For that reason, if you go to do for the production build, the size will be less. But if you go for development build, you're going to run the light cell. Now it will be a little bit more difficult, because you know that development build create lot of different files. Due to that, the size will be increased. Now you can see that is the core JS taking this much time, and all these things taking this much time. How many time required to load this file, how much times polyfill getting downloaded, all these things are creating here. You can see that this is the whole source tree. You can go and see that which library taking how much time, what is the size of the things, all these things we're going to discuss here. For that reason, you can simply go and click the view tree map. View original source, you can see that what is the things. It's saying that loading take 25 milliseconds. Means you have to see like that. They are saying this is taking this much time. You have to understand which thing taking how much time. 25 millisecond taking loading, 287 millisecond taking scripting, rendering, painting, system idle, all these things are displaying here. In same way, you can see the performance also got measured. Each and every performance of our application, how many time taking the network, vendor just loading, how many time it taking to load the main application, all these things are displaying here. Apart from that, if you go to the this one, you can see that this is the screen they have attached here. What is the screen? Okay, these are the screen actual they have attached. It's not able to view. These are the screen. Okay, they are saying that these are the testing they have did. All these things they have did like this content they are doing. And what is the opportunity? How can go and fix it? Enable text compression. They are saying that we are going to enable text compression. You can see that only vendor dash polyfill dash this files has problem because guys why? Because this is a development build, but production build is going to solve. Minified JavaScript. We are going to minify JavaScript because you know that production build there is no minification will happen. Due to that, this is taking the minified. What is the use of this one, guys? This is going to show the error as well as it's going to say that what problem we are going to be solved. They're saying that they're going to say that reduce unused JavaScript. Reduce unused JavaScript means what JavaScript we are going to reduce the JavaScript. What are the JavaScript going to reduce, guys? This thing we cannot reduce because this is the default one because this application, this light cell is global for everyone. Due to that, you are saying that okay, these are the things are not used, these are the things are not used. They are saying, but we are not going to focus on this one. We are going to focus always this one. How you can go and compress the file, how you can go and minify file, all these things. Okay, remove duplicate modules. They are saying that some modules are there which is duplicate. Simply ignore this one. Same way, you can see lot of things will be here. But if you go to the diagnostic, is saying that these are the, you can say everywhere these files are there. Why? Because these files are the development built due to the taking the problem. But let me do one thing, guys. What I'll do, you can able to understand this thing and you can get all the suggestion here. Based on the suggestion, you can go and work with your changes. But how you can go and work with it, because you have to create a component, you have to create all these things, you have to focus on that, right? We'll discuss how you can go improve all these things. Apart from that, what I'm going to do now, let me create another audit report. Another audit report, let me do one thing. Let me again run. We'll see that. You can see that previous one 67, this one 66. So many times you're going to run, your application going to be give you different kind of results. Why? It's always going to based on a network. It is always going to based on how much code you're writing, all these things. For that reason, you have to always imagine that whatever you are generating the report, right? That report is maybe vary 1 or 2% all the time. But don't think that one. You have to think that what are the suggestion the lighthouse given to you and how you can go and fix that thing into your application. That we're going to discuss. I can see 68. If you see the three performance here 67, sorry, here the 67, here the 66, here the 68. This one is going to vary 1-2% or 3 to 5 to 4% is going to vary all the times. Don't think about this thing. Always think what happening here. What is the error? How many time is taking? What is the things they are saying? We are going to fix it. Let's go on the last one is the mobile one. How your application is going to look into mobile. If you go to click on a mobile, now click on analyze report, it will go and run the application inside a mobile. You're going to see that how your application is that called like proper align, how we are going to use the responsive designing, all these things, but our application doesn't contain any responsive design. For that reason, it's not going to show that much difference. But if you are developing an application, that application is used to use your mobile device also. How your application going to perform into mobile, that is the use of this one. You can see that performance is totally zero. They're saying that nothing is work. What happened? Okay, they are saying that Chrome does not collect any screenshot during the page load, because all these things they are saying all this kind of stuff, because our application is not fit for the mobile. Due to that it's happening. Let's run another time. We'll see anything will happen or not. Guys, always understand this lighthouse tool is not like anything you did mistake. No, no, no. This is all about what actually will happen if someone going to run the application into their machine. Because for you it's not going to show anything, right? But for a normal person, how it's going to behave, that's the reason how you're going to test. Due to that, we are going to use the concept called lighthouse. Okay, lighthouse, you can test it here. You can use the Chrome dev tool. That is a dedicated site. You can see that now it is 39%. You can see that what happening here is taking 15 seconds to load the page. This is the way we can see all the changes we can able to improvise our application. Okay, now I'll do one thing. Let me remove everything, whatever report is got created. Now we'll see. This is the things. Now the problem will be after you see all these things, how you can go and improve the things. For that reason, we are going to implement the concept called lazy loading. You know that lazy loading is a functionality is available into our application, because if you're going to combine your all the components into one module, the problem will be when the application is going to start, it will create a larger content. For that reason, you know that in Angular we have a concept called lazy loading. We are not going to implement any lazy loading concept here, but just want to tell that to improve your application speed, we need to know the lazy loading functionality. Because just imagine, now we have only one component here that is called the country state. Just imagine we have 100 component, and all the 100 components is going to bind into the app module. And when the application is going to build, that time what will happen? It's going to add everything for us. Like it's going to create the all the files into our application. That time the file size, the bundle size is going to increase. For that reason, when going forward, going to create an application, just create the multiple modules based on a requirement, and in that module, just going to add your own component. Don't add all the components into one module. Create a different modules and add the respective component into that module. What will happen? You know that lazy loading means it's going to load that particular module on dynamic way, right? Into a dynamically. For that reason, our application is going to be a little bit more faster. That's the way. If you are developing an application, don't use the all the component in one module. You have to create different modules and use that module into our application. Okay, this is the one way. Third one, okay, last one, guys. I know that you get a little bit, we'll go for break. That one is build. Don't do any kind of development build. Development build is just for your local development. Don't do that development into the production. In production for, you'll go for the ahead of time compiler that is called our production build. You know, the ng, like ng build hyphen prod, which is used to like do the production build for the application. And I know that when you're going to do the production build, it will go and do the production build for application, and it will remove all the unnecessary code. Whatever code is required, that code we are going to use into our application. I'll show that how it's going to work, and we're going to run. We'll see that what is the file size of this particular production build, and we'll see that how it's going to work. Now you can see that ng build hyphen prod is used to do the production build for the application. Once you do the production build, now it will going to generate a bundle for us. Bundling means it's going to compile the application. After compilation, it's going to create a package, and that package is going to create a folder into our dist folder here. We're going to create a dist folder, and inside the dist folder, it's going to place all the files. We'll see this one, last one. Okay. So once you do the production build, you can see that everything got created, and you can see that how the size is drastically changed. Okay, we'll go to dist folder, and here you can, if you go to open the folder, you can see that this is a dist application. If you go and click the properties, you have to see that the total application properties is 2.84 kbs, right? Now, if you open this one, you can see that all the files are here. You can see that style, there is no styles, only main.ts is more to 30 kb. Let me do one thing, guys. Open this index.html into our this one. Right click, open a live server. We'll see that what happening here. Just a second. But this application need to be host somewhere. But what I did, just a second. Okay. Now this is our application, right? Now you can see that if I go to Lightsail and desktop, analyze the page, we'll see this one. This is our production version. Okay, we'll see this one. Guys, see this one. You can look into our performance of application, how this is drastically changed. Everything is load under the things. That's the reason I show you. If you do for the actually the light cell should be work in the production version, not in development version, because development version means you know that lot of junk files will be there for development support. You have to check your application into a production version, then only it's going to work. For that reason, once you do the production build for application, just install one sorry, the extension called live server. Okay, live server means you can open any HTML file into live, no need to run any command. Live server, to do the dist, go to the here, right click and open with the live server. But one thing you need to change, the index.html file, there is a base href will be there. Here just pass your dist folder slash your project name. Because why it's happened, because this file should be known that where it exists. For that reason you have to put this. This is the sheet, this is the standard you have to follow. After that, run the application into local, and you'll see that do the light cell, and after light cell you can see that how this is going to work. Okay, this is the way you can able to see our application. Look how this is our performance increased to 100%. Previously 60 to 68 we have that number. Now it increased the performance. But why 100%, guys? Because we have nothing here, right? We are not doing anything. But due for that reason our application contain only one page. Due to that it's faster. But day by day you are the component getting added, the performance going to be a little bit down, because how much files will be there, how much size will be there, that much it will going to be problem for you. Okay, not problem means it's going to be decrease the performance of your application. Clear? Okay, now we'll go for the security one. Okay, guys, first understand what is security. Okay, now security means just not like you are going to enter the username password and you go to authenticate, you will go to implement security. That is called security. But in Angular, security means because you know that if all the application going to enter from a screen. Screen means suppose so just like you are developing an UI, and the UI you have a text box which is going to use to suppose enter the some value. And what happened, the attacker, the person who is a little bit technical, what he'll do, he or she will going to do that, he's going to add some kind of script there. Which script? JavaScript script or some kind of JavaScript loop or some kind of code is going to inject. Now if the code is going to inject, now what will happen, Now, how our Angular application going to handle that things? Just example. Suppose uh, suppose I have a text box. Okay, I have a text box, and a text box I have going to enter. The text box is open. I can go and enter anything, right? Suppose I'm going to enter here this script alert hi, and this text box value I'm going to bind into a div. Okay, I'm going to bind into a div here. This text box value I'm going to bind into a div. And if you're going to bind a div means, suppose I bind here text box value. Now this text box contains this tag. Now what will happen? This tag going to print here. Now if you're going to run this application, now it should be display script alert hi. Now you can see that if I'm going to print this script hi, now it's going to display script print this hi. Now the problem is, if this tag is used to display the alert, right? Now this is called this is the problem here. This is a security fault. This kind of issue is called XSS, means cross-site scripting. Understand? The first attacker is going to do that. That attacker is going to inject some JavaScript code, and that JavaScript code is going to run into your application. That is the things is going to happen. The cross-site scripting, that is short form called XSS. Now let's understand how Angular is going to handle this cross-site scripting into our application. For that reason, what I'm going to do now, let me create delete this one, not required. Wait a second. What I'm going to do now, let me create a component here. What component? Suppose let me add a component, ng generate component called security. Okay. It's called security. Now you can see that in SRC, in app, we got a component called security. Now let's do one thing. Simple, we'll do a basic design now. What we're going to do, let me in app component, instead of this app country, I'm going to use here app security. Okay, we have two components available. One is country, another one is our security. Okay, security, we're going to print it here. Let me, as of now, let me comment this one. Okay, because we will only go focus on the security part. Okay, now let's see what we're going to do in security. Let me create a text box, simple text box like text area will be here, and some button is here, suppose so, and create a variable called suppose text value, or simple as value, and a string default value will be blank, and click function, suppose show value, which is the function. On this here, we are going to bind ng model, that's called value, and the button click show value, right? Pretty much simple, right? And here on that, we're going to do the next work. Now what I'm going to do it here, now in the console, let me increase this one. In here, whatever going to enter here, right? If you click on show, it's going to display. Now I'll do here thing. I'm going to create a span here. Let me do. I'm going to add a div here. In a div, I'm going to bind the whatever value we have going to bind it. Okay, now if you're going to enter hello, it is playing hello because we have bind this hello data to here, right? Now let's see. Let me enter script and alert hi. Guys, but we should expect that this should be displayed as a normal JavaScript because it's a JavaScript code, right? Finally, everything going to display here, it's JavaScript code. Because browser know only JavaScript, HTML, CSS. But why it displaying this way? Okay, why it's displaying this way? Why it's not displaying the alert? Because if I go and in button click, if I go into write here code called alert hi, then if I go and click the button here, you can see that it's displaying the high one, right? But if I go write code here like script and alert hi, it should be display alert, right? Because we are JavaScript code are ejecting. Because if you go and write any JavaScript code, in your code you have to most have to put the script tag, right? But why it's not working here? Now let's understand the problem here. Not problem, the understand the Angular architecture here. How Angular is going to work with this kind of script. Guys, you know that this one means this two curly bracket. What is the use of curly bracket? It is used to bind the data, right? It's used to bind the data into our HTML, means it's used for the display purpose. One thing you have to understand always, whatever you are binding using the two curly bracket, that one is not going to work. Okay, that one is not going to do any kind of JavaScript operation. Is just like a string, means here this is a actually text. Now here you can see that this is presenting as a text only, means whenever you are using the two curly bracket, you have to understand that this is not going to execute any kind of script or any kind of operation. This is just like a string append. How you are entering a data here, right? How you are entering data here, same to same. Whatever you are going to bind including the two curly bracket, now this is going to be work as a data binding only. There is nothing going to change at all. You cannot execute anything, all this thing, because that is the default functionality of our Angular. Means Angular is inbuilt contain the security architecture, but we'll discuss one by one what the things will be there. But first thing you have to understand, when you're going to bind the data into your HTML, if you are using the two curly bracket, automatically the browser, means automatically the Angular convert everything to string. This is not just like a okay script tag going to execute. No, everything going to display as a string. Due to that, whatever writing here, that is displaying here. This is not executed. Okay, now let's go for next one. Let me add another div. Okay, another div. And inside div, what I'm going to use, I'm going to use the inner HTML. Okay, inner HTML. If you don't know what is inner HTML, I let you know that inner HTML is used to set the HTML content of a div, span, all these things. Save it. What I'm going to do, let me copy the same thing, script tag, and I'm going to enter here. Guys, see what happened here. You can see that this div, whatever div we have added, this is not displaying any content. But if you're going to add here before that hello, but you can see that this first one, what we are doing, if you see the code side by side, we can able to see all these things. Just a second, guys, just a second. let me, okay, we'll see side by side comparison, then we'll be able to understand. Okay, let's see this. Here you can see that we have this script, right? Understand, this script we are going to write, and in this script whatever writing we are displaying here, but I'm using the inner HTML. In inner HTML you can see that if I going to same value I'm printing here, but what happening is display is not displaying anything, it's not displaying anything. But the problem is here, it should be display, right? But it's not displaying. But if you're going to add hello, but you can see that it's displaying the content. But apart from that, nothing is displaying. So let's understand this thing. Why is this thing happen? Why in the two double curly bracket, the data is whatever script we are writing, why it's displaying, and why in the case of inner HTML it's not working? First understand the internal mechanism of Angular. Guys, when you are, as I told earlier, if you're going to use double curly bracket, then whatever you're going to bind in between that, whatever value you're going to passing in between that, what will happen, the Angular going to convert everything to string, because this is going to represent as a string only. For that reason is printing as it is. But inner HTML is the one of the attribute of a div, which is used to set the HTML context. You know that HTML is also contain the information called what? The information called, you can add a HTML tag like suppose bold, italic, style, you can add everything. They are treating this is as a HTML. Then what happening here in the Angular is internally doing the XXT verification, verification, that sanitization or that verification is going to check the content and remove the content from here, remove the content from the our whatever text. Just example, here due to hello is there, hello displaying, due to this is a script tag, this is not displaying. Why not displaying? Because this is a JavaScript code. But let me do one thing, let me enter here hello world. I want to make this thing as bold, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it a bold tag, and I'm going to end as a bold tag. You can see that it is working, right? This is working. But you can see that here, due to this bold tag, you can see that this is displaying just a bold. Now you can imagine difference between property binding, means data binding, as well as the property set. If you are using the two curly bracket, now it will going to represent everything as a string. You can add all the code here. Everything is going to treat as a string. Due to that, whatever you have written here is displaying as it is. But if you go to the inner HTML part, you can see that here I have written this code called B, like bold tag. Inside that I have written world. For that reason, you can see that it's convert to world to this italic part. Now you will understand sometimes you require to display some dynamic HTML control inside this inside your page. Then you have to think about this two way. The things is, in case of property binding, everything is a string. In case of inner HTML, whenever going to set any value, not only inner HTML, everywhere in the Angular, if you're going to send any property value, any value, then internally Angular is going to check each and every security for the application. Okay. Now let's do a little bit more enhancement these things. What we'll do? We are going to use the style tag. You know, style tag is used to, okay, is used to display some style, right? Let me, what I'm going to do, I'm going to, if anywhere is bold is there, okay, I want to make it color red. Can you understand? Simple HTML string, right? Style, you got it? This is your style, bold, or whenever the B tag will be there, the color will be red. Let me do change thing, let me make it strong. You know, the bold substitute is strong tag, same to same, anywhere will be strong will be there, but that is going to be changed to red. Pretty much simple, right? You can see that this is the normal CSS tag. Now here I should expect that this is must be a, this should be displayed as red, right? But if I go to here, let me copy this same code, copy here same code, and I go to our style.css and I'll write strong color red. I go and save all these things. You can see that it's displaying hello world as a red. Why it's displaying red, guys? Because I have made the strong as red. But same thing I am doing. I am not doing any other things. What I'm doing, instead of writing this code here, what I'm doing, I'm making the script tag here only. Okay, like style. Then this is the things, and here, sorry guys, just a second. Add a style, and here I'll write strong. Strong means the strong tag. But what happening here? The you write suppose strong color equal to red. Understand this thing. Here you can see that everything is working. Okay, forget about the first one. First one you already know that whatever you write is going to display, nothing going to be changed. But second one you can see that why it's not becoming a red. It should be a red because we are printing in our HTML. Now let's understand why it's not working. Two things you have to always understand in case of when you're going to set a inner HTML, means when you're going to display any kind of stuff into your HTML as HTML content. Apart from this two curly bracket, if you're using any parameter as an HTML text, you have to always think two things. What are the things? First one, this Angular internally will remove the style tag. Okay, internally it's going to remove the style tag. It's not going to use the style tag at all. It's going to ignore. Apart from that, okay, apart from that, this inner HTML or any property binding, this third input one is going to ignore the script tag. Two things is always going to ignore. One is style tag, one is a suppose one is your script tag. This two tag is automatically going to ignore by your Angular. This thing you must have to know. There is a cause behind that. What is the cause? Cause is because due to someone going to add some kind of style, someone going to add, because this is just like a script tag, right? Start and end, just like a script tag. There is a regular expression maybe there. They are going to start the style and all these things. They can remove all these things. This is the way Angular work internally, the security. But sometimes guys you require this kind of implementation. What kind of implementation? And sometimes you are calling one page, calling one API. That API going to give you the HTML content. Now what you are going to do, you are going to display that HTML content into your application. Okay, just like a help document. Suppose you are creating one page, and that page there is an icon, there is a button. If you're going to click the button, that pop-up should be open, and that pop-up going to display a help document. And you know that help document going to contain the list of different styles, because something heading, UL, LI, lot of things will be there. It's contain some kind of coloring, some kind of things will be there. Now that kind of HTML how we can use, because if you go and put inside the inner HTML also, you can see that this is not going to work, because this is simply ignoring the style sheet, simply ignore the script tag. But as a developer, sometimes you require to develop that type of things. Then how you can go and develop that kind of application to your project? Now let's go understand what is called DOM sanitizer. What is called sanitize? And all you know the what is sanitize, because recently we all are used the sanitizer in our COVID. Same to same. What is the use of sanitizer? Sanitizer is going to use to remove the germs, right? Same to same. In case of our Angular, how we can go and dealing with the this like miscellaneous code, or this same kind of like the injection code, like these are the injection code, right? How you can go and work with the excess code into our Angular. Understand the problem. The problem is I want to make this strong, this wall as a red, but I have written the style tag. But what happened, guys? Due to style tag is ignored by the application, then it will simply go and ignore that one. Is only work the strong tag. But we'll see that how into our application we can enable this style tag throughout the Angular. Okay, now Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create two variables here. Okay, one is, let me write here h2. Okay, we're going to write original. Okay, h2 after sanitize. Okay, we're going to display two things. Let me copy this one, guys, for reference. I don't need to write the same thing again and again. Okay, now what I'm going to do, let me define, if I go to here into our code, let me define a variable called, suppose non sanitize HTML, and this is a any. Let me define any here. Okay, sorry, it's a non after, sorry, original sanitize content, non sanitize content, and here I'm going to use this non sanitize HTML here. Okay, two things, perfect. Now what we're going to do in suppose show value or show value function, you know, button click on show value. What we're going to do, we are going to convert whatever we are going to extract the value from the value to get a non-sanitized HTML. For that reason, what we're going to do, we are going to implement DOM sanitizer service. What we can do that, okay, how are we going to do that? You're going to create a you're going to inject a class called DOM sanitizer, and in DOM sanitizer you're going to create an object. Now this object is going to play around it. What we're going to do, first of all, we are going to convert, because by default this JavaScript is going to use the sanitize one, right? For that reason, what we're going to do now, this dot sanitize the instance of sanitizer, then by security trust HTML, bypass security HTML. Now what you're going to do, you are going to bypass the security. Bypass the security means you are not going to use the Angular default security mechanism. You can bypass that one. For that reason, going to pass this dot value. Okay, let me store this dot value to this dot non-sanitize HTML. We'll discuss back here. Now bypass security HTML means it's going to ignore the security mechanism of HTML, security mechanism of Angular, and it's going to return the value from here. Now let me save this one, guys. Okay, save this one. We'll see side by side. After that, you can see that what happened. Okay, not this one. Just a second. Okay, now we have two here. Let me copy this same text. Okay, and put it here, and you can see that what happening. Once you put it here, you can see our nothing is working. Let me click on show. See this one. Got it? It now convert this thing to our sanitize one. Okay, this is the record, because due to the same variable record it got changed, but you can see that this is working this way. Means you learn here one thing. If you are going to implement, if you don't do anything for Angular, then what will happen? Angular is going to do its own work, own security principle. But if you are going to bypass the security, bypass security means without using the cross check of the security, then this is going to work the bypass security trust HTML. This function is used to bypass the default security behavior of Angular to the normal HTML. Whatever you're going to write, it is going to work. Just let's try for the script one. Now if you're going to write the script, okay, it's working or not. This one. You can see that it's just convert to, okay, button click. Okay, we'll do one thing. write a function here, JavaScript function. Just imagine. So in the show function, we're going to write a alert button here. Okay, and here I'm going to write a button. Click me. So that button is there. On button, on click, we're going to call the function called show. So error is coming. What error? Okay, some error is coming, but you can see that this is working perfectly. Means you can see here one thing, guys. If you go to here and if you go inspect, you can see that everything is working as expected. You can see that everything is working. Means every data is convert to non-style to like non-HTML to is HTML format. That is only happen using this command, bypass security toast HTML. This is, you have to remember, this is available inside the DOM sanitizer. Without DOM sanitizer you cannot do it. This is, and one thing, this is a very risk to use. What risk to use? Suppose someone going to inject some code, is going to execute. For that reason, before using this one, you make sure that whatever value you are passing to this function, that value must be a trusted value. That must be contain HTML, that is fine, but make sure that that content always be trusted value. Otherwise someone going to inject some code, because bypass security means this is not going to do into our hand. That is totally a normal JavaScript code, and you know that all the HTML JavaScript code can directly run and execute into our browser. For that reason, what will happen, before using this bypass trust URL, then you must have to sure that this is going to be work, this is going to be trusted value. Okay, this is the one way you can go and implement the use of DOM sanitizer for the HTML content. Got it? This is the one of the way. Right, now next go for next one. What I'm going to do now here, I am going to suppose display a YouTube video here. Okay, I'm going to display YouTube video, and in the YouTube video we are going to enter the video ID, and that video ID going to display inside the iframe. Okay, now display that part once. Let me do one thing. I'm going to open our Sinutech YouTube channel. Okay, I'm going to open the Sinutech YouTube channel, and in the YouTube channel we have lots of video. Let me go for this Angular 12-hour course. Okay, this is one of the course. Let me open. Okay, then what we're going to do now, guys, this is our YouTube ID, right? This is our you can say that this is our video ID. This is the URL, right? Now if you go and click it here, share, you can see that we have embed option here, right? If you click on embed, you can see that this is our iframe embed. If you're going to copy this one, and in the browser means here, if I go and paste it, if you're going to save, you can able to see that, we can able to see that video here, right? Perfect, you are able to see this video here. Now let's make it a little bit dynamic. What dynamic we want to do? Let me add a text box here. In the text box, we are going to click a button. There we're going to enter the video ID. Once you click the video ID, click on the show. We are going to display the iframe data here. We're going to try multiple video ID and going to display the multiple data here. Okay, simple. Now for that reason, let me add a div here, guys. Let me div add. I'm going to add an input type text, and we have simple and a button, suppose show video. Okay, and here what I'm going to do now, let me use the same value. Okay, ng model sorry, ng model value, same value we're going to use. On click of button click, suppose here click show video. Okay, let me create a function. Sorry, let me create the function show video, function show video, and okay, do one thing. Suppose let me define a variable called YouTube URL, and it will be string, by default blank, Okay, and the button click, what we're going to do now, we are going to prepare this URL. Okay, let me copy this one. Okay, now what we're going to do now here, this dot YouTube video URL equal to, paste it and make this one will be dynamic. What dynamic value? This will be this dot value, because this dot value we have bind into our URL, right? Now YouTube URL we're going to copy, we're going to write a ng container here, ng if the YouTube video URL will be there, then simply go paste it here, and here src we're going to pass that YouTube URL, right? Simple one and perfect. Got it? Now simply create a YouTube URL. YouTube URL, that on button click I'm setting the YouTube URL with the value, whatever value you have entered, you're going to set it, right? Now let me save. Once you save, you can able to see now we are going to enter the URL. First, okay, let me copy this one. This is our ID, right? This is the YouTube video ID. Copy this one and go here. Sorry guys. Copying everything. This is our ID. Let me here enter. Due to two reference call, you got to enter. Now show value, show video. Why it's not showing anything? If you go to inspect, you can see that some error is displaying. You can see that unsafe value used in resource URL context. Now let's understand, this is one of the security threat. We develop very basic things, right? We have a text box, we are going to enter a video ID and click on the show video. In the code, we are setting the YouTube URL as this URL, and this YouTube URL we are going to set into our HTML. How much? Pretty much is very easiest one, right? But you can see that if you're going to enter the URL and I click on show video, but you can see that this error is throwing. Okay, now let's understand this problem. Okay, whenever you are setting the src of this iframe, and here you are referring to a external resource like one page link, right? Now what happened here, guys, if you set this one, now this URL, if I go and print this one, okay, if I go and simply go and print this YouTube URL, let's see what happening here. Okay, you will see it is looks like very pretty much simple, right? It looks like very okay, this is the same URL. If I go and open this URL in new tab, it may be displaying the Angular embedded one, right? Okay, but why is not displaying here? Why displaying all these things? Now let's understand the internal mechanism of Angular security. In Angular security, what will happen when you are preparing any URL and this URL you are going to pass into your HTML? Now that time you must have to do the sanitization for that. Sanitization by default, Angular going to do the sanitize. Sanitize means it's going to clean the all the bugs. Now what happened? This time this is going to use as a unsafe value. You're going to directly use this one, saying that you are someone going to be phishing means someone going to give a like bad URL for that. For that reason, what happened, it's going to throw an error for the application. We cannot pass a URL directly to the application if the URL is outside the application. Let's understand on other things. But you know that you will say that okay, in the src also I can pass the image URL, then why it's not throwing error, why it's accessing for this one? Now let's understand the what is called a resource URL. Then see that error is showing that unsafe value for resource URL. Resource URL means we are setting in the src property. The src property you are setting and the URL is the in a different embed, because we are using iframe, right? The iframe src property, they are saying that that must be sanitized. Sanitizing, that must be a trusted URL. But the problem is due to our Angular is removing the trusted during sanitization, that time it's gotten changed. In this case, how we can go and use the exact URL here? For that reason, guys, what we're going to do, we are going to use the new concept is called this dot service sanitize dot bypass trust URL. Okay, now if you go and pass this one, what will happen? This one, it's going to bypass the security test for us. Let me define, it's the any, it's define any. You can see that it's going to bypass the trust resource URL. If you're going to pass this or something, it's going to bypass this one. If you're going to save this one, and if you're going to pass the video ID here, and if you're going to click on show, you can see that now it's displaying this one. Okay, guys, this is the way you can able to set the things. You can see that what it's doing. You can, if you print, you can see it's doing set must value use property. Okay, property, this is the binding. They are doing this kind of binding. If you go to this URL, you can able to see all these things, but you can see that when you are doing the sanitize, when going to bypass the security, then it's going to generate a different kind of direct link to you. For that reason, you can able to see this iframe. Now you understand like how we can display a simple binding a data into iframe external URL. You have to do the bypass the security. Yeah, this is the way you can able to do the bypass security. And apart from that, there is a lot of function will be there. Sanitize, like bypass, we will on trust resource URL bypass script. Suppose you want to bypass the script, you can script. Then bypass the security trusted, you can security trust the style. Same way you can able to maintain the different stuff. Same way it's just going to bypass the script. It's going to bypass the URL, internal URL. It's going to bypass the style. It's going to bypass the script. It's going to bypass the resource URL. It's going to bypass the HTML. I have defined two method here, and two method I have shown the example how it's going to work. Same way you can go and implement other things whenever you require. You can use that one. This is the way you can able to implement the security functionality into your application. But the security is going to check about how we are going to use. By default, Angular inbuilt access security, and that security you are going to use. But if sometimes if the requirement will be different, all this thing, that time you can go and use the DOM sanitizer one, and DOM sanitizer is going to remove and all this bypass the security of your application. Okay, you can see that what's saying DOM sanitizer help preventing cross-site scripting security by sanitize value to be safe to use different DOM context. Based on that, you can use into a program. You can read a little bit more into Angular side. You can go learn about all these things. This is the way you can go and implement security and bypass the security using the Angular. Okay, got it. Now what we learn about now, we learn about what is sanitize, and how you can go and manipulate the sanitizer. And okay, one thing I'm going to give you tip: don't use anywhere get element by ID. Just example, I'm going to give an example. Suppose here a button, right? Suppose let me ID put the ID here called suppose video txt video. Okay, txt video. On button click, what I'm going to do, let me comment this code, guys. They're going to use document dot get element by id. I'm going to pass here is called suppose txt video. Let me call const txt video equal to this one. And I know that all of you are using this get element by id, get element by name into your javascript one. When you're using javascript, that time I'm going to use. But what I'm going to say here, no need to use this kind of code. Suppose xyz show video, you can see that never go and use this doc get element by id function. Okay, why I'm saying, because when you are going to use the real DOM code, this is JavaScript code. When you go and use a JavaScript code, then there is no involvement of Angular here, because if you're using JavaScript code only, there is no involvement of Angular. Means Angular don't know what you are doing, because if you are going to process of Angular, then Angular know that what you are using. If you don't using any Angular things, you're directly using JavaScript stuff, there is no import, there is no involvement of Angular. Before using the direct our JavaScript code into Angular project, make sure that is that achievable using the Angular or not. If not, then in that case you can go and use the this thing. But I'm saying the 99.99 times the Angular can do all the things. But if there is any extra or any kind of difficult task will be there, then you can go and achieve using the JavaScript code. But always try, guys, don't use this DOM element. This DOM element, another JavaScript is called element ref. You guys know what is element ref will be there. Element ref. This class. Before using element, a wrapper around a native element inside a view means This is same as they get element by ID. Before using element ref also, you must have to ensure that whichever element you are using, that element must be trustworthy. Means the data should become that will be trust data. Otherwise, don't use get element by ID, and sometimes don't use this element ref. Element ref means security permit direct access to DOM. Got you see that? What is the problem here? Element ref permit direct access to DOM can be application more vulnerability or access attack. For that reason, this element get element ID or get element rep are more dangerous for the application where someone going to use. For that reason, before using this thing, you must have to sure that is that actually use of that one or not. Otherwise, don't touch this one. That will be problem. If you go anywhere, you can mouse over, you can see all these things, right? You can see that this is a security problem here, and here you can see the element ref here code. Carefully review any use of element ref into code for more details, because once you use this one, right, you can do everything. Just imagine what I'm going to do now. I'm going to do eval function. Eval function, you know that what is the use of eval function? Is going to evaluate anything. Okay, just imagine as HTML input. As any. Okay, now what I'm going to do now, let me save it, and let me write our same code, alert high. You can see that what happened here. Let me do one. You can see guys how this is working. If someone going to inject a code from the button click, you can see that without adding any code here, simple one function can be going to execute your code. Just imagine what dangerous use of this one. Okay, because due to I have access the direct element, I can get the value, I can use the eval, I can do it. Let me copy this one. Okay, what I'm going to do now, same previous example, what I'll do, let me copy this code, our this code, right? Now in this code, you can see that if you go and write a script tag, and script tag here, I can do one thing, eval alert high. This thing is people can able to do the this kind of script code, they can inject and you can able to run the application. For that reason, going forward, never use same kind of code, because this is one of the injection code. Eval means it's going to evaluate, it's going to execute the code. For that reason, no need to use this kind of code. For that reason, always be trusted. Don't use get element by ID and don't use element ref if there is no that much use. Otherwise, you can use it. Okay, this is the way you can able to prevent the DOM sanitizer. Okay, this is the additional thing, you already got it, like how it is going to work. And second last thing will be this one, the router security. And you all know that we have the concept called router security, router guard. And use router guard, you have can activate child, all these things will be can deactivate, all these things will be there. Before someone going to click one of the URL, you must have to set that that user has permission to access that URL or not. You can write your own logic, but that is the application level. Okay, but as a trusted level, as a programmer level, before going to use all these things, you make sure that you no need to use all this direct API. Angular, React, Vue, they are creating a wrapper top of the JavaScript code. They are saying that no need to use the same code again and again, no need to use the JavaScript code directly. For that reason, what you need to do, you need to use their own library, you have to use their own class, you have to use their own function. Don't write any kind of JavaScript function because you know JavaScript. That is not a good ideal position for the things. Okay. Now, before going to next, guys, one request to all of you, because I have already sent you the our review one. Please go and write a review for me. If anyone find any difficulties, anything, please let me know. I can see only one person write the review, other one didn't write the review. Please go and write the review for me. If you like the course or any suggestion you require anything, please let me know. Just I'm sending the chat. Then we'll go and discuss about the question and answer part. I'm going to discuss what other things we're going to perform in the case of Angular. Okay, like guys, like this code I have already created. Now what we're going to do, we are going to save this code into our Synutech Git repo. And if anyone require the code and the reference, please feel free to send the reply the mail into that mail ID. Whatever mail ID you receive the invitation, please reply the mail and we are going to send you the link there. Okay, and that's all we're going to do for the, like, this code we are going to add into our Git. If you want to do that, let me do here. No need to send the mail, it will be open for everyone. What I'll do now, guys, let me open the Git. Into the Git. Okay, let me create a workshop. Angular 15th October. Okay, let me make it public that anyone able to access. Let me create a repo. What I'm going to do now, let me commit this code. Okay, now guys, we have committed the code. This is our URL. I'm going to paste this URL into our chat box, and you guys can simply click and clone the project. Okay, and you have any issues, anything, just raise a issue here. You have issue button here, you can go and raise the issue. Anything you have any requirement, anything will be there, you can go and attach here. Okay, it's up to you. I have make it open, and you can go and make it, you can add your own, you can clone the project, you can see what is happening here. Okay, okay guys, next go for the next one. Now we are going to plan for the Angular 18 workshop, free workshop for all of you, like maybe upcoming week or somewhere. We're going to send you the invitation to everyone that what are the new features is introduced in Angular 14 and all these things. But one thing you have to understand, guys, whatever we have discussed today, this is 10% of Angular, or you can say 5% of Angular. Same way we have 20 plus different security like tools are available into our project. If anyone interested to join our Angular classes, all these things, if you are experienced also, if you are fresher also, doesn't matter, because we are real-time expert, and we are giving only the real-time project only. And if anyone interested to join the class, you can feel free to contact us. You can go and the same link you can contact our batch is just started with our Angular real-time project. You can go and join. You can see lot of tools, because logging will be there, and we'll go to learn about the library also there. Caching this is the one of the caching part. We have lots of application caching, different technology also there. Means 120 plus tools we are going to integrate our application, light cell integration into CI/CD pipeline, how we are going to manage the git branching, pull request, approval, CI/CD build, automatic deployment, automatic build, all these things going to do. Dockerization of the application, social media authentication like Facebook, Google, or Twitter authentication, GitHub authentication. You can add your company own authentication. How you can do that? Apart from that, we're going to learn about NGRX concept. What are different NGRX? All these things we are going to learn and going to implement in a project one by one. Thank you all. Thank you for joining today's session, and we are looking forward to join our next class or next session. Have a nice day.